Good afternoon and welcome to UCEA YouTube Live. This is Scott Richardson, a graduate research assistant and doctoral student at UCEA headquarters at the University of Virginia. And I am here today to interview Carol Mullen as a part of her candidacy for the UCEA Executive Committee. Today's listeners will be hearing from Carol Mullen, a professor of educational leadership at Virginia Tech. Go Hokies. Her current research specializes in mentoring theory and practice in education across university and K-12 settings, and social justice leadership that fosters critically reflective, values-oriented approaches and developing education professionals and systems. So welcome, Dr. Mullen.
Good afternoon, Scott. Well, as you said, I'm going to go ahead and I guess you want me to introduce myself? Is that the idea?
Yes, please. At first, you could just tell us about your background and your work as it relates to UCEA's mission and goals.
I'd be happy to. Well, as you've already said, I'm a tenured full professor of educational leadership at Virginia Tech, located in the Blacksburg, Virginia area, right where you are, approximately. Yeah, my PhD is from the Ontario Institute for Studies in Education of the University of Toronto. While earning my degree, I was the principal investigator of a grant from a Canadian federal agency to conduct educational research, dealing with the high dropout rate in maximum security penitentiaries. And then later in the United States, I examined the same sociological phenomenon, but with females in prison. In Canada, I also taught communications courses in community colleges. And from these teaching experiences, Scott, I came to realize that the importance of education and communication really has to be geared towards lifting up disenfranchised populations. So I try to reflect this awareness in my interpersonal style and work in educational leadership. I am a dual citizen of the United States and Canada and emigrated from Toronto to the US 23 years ago. And I've been at leading doctoral intensive research universities in different states. I served as director of the School of Education and associate dean at Virginia Tech. Previously, I was department chair and doctoral program coordinator at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. As an experienced administrator and faculty member, an interest of mine is the role of quality programming and curricula in making learning and success central to the betterment of all children and youth. My explorations rely on systematic inquiry, which reflects UCEA's values of rigor and relevance, I think, with respect to the work we do in the educational leadership field. I am a two-time U.S. Fulbright Scholar. My first Fulbright project occurred in China in 2015, and my second Fulbright took me to Canada just last year. Currently, I'm looking at global issues of creativity and accountability in education, with the United States at the forefront of the policy issues I investigate in real-life international contexts. From UCEA, I was honored with the 2016 J.D. Scribner Mentoring Award for making a substantive contribution to the mentoring field. I cherish that recognition. I've been awarded the 2017 Living Legend Award from the International Council of Professors of Educational Leadership. Previously called NCPEA, I was its 67th president. I also received the 2017 Distinguished Faculty Achievement Award for service to the profession from AERA's LTEL-SIG. Another recognition is the 2015 EAQ Service Award for Outstanding Editorial Board Service. My authorships include 154 refereed journal articles and book chapters, 18 special issues of journals, and 22 books. Recently, Education Policy Perils, Creativity and Education in China, and Creativity Under Duress in Education are books of mine. I also collaborate on research with UCA faculty, something I really love doing, with articles appearing in the Journal of Research on Leadership Education and UCEA Review. With almost $5 million awarded in grants, my external funding as principal investigator includes 2 Fulbright grants, as you know, and an Impact 5 grant. 1999, that was my first UCA convention. Over the 19 years, my activity with UCEA includes governance, service, mentoring presentations, and networking. I appreciate your good questions, Scott.
Yes, indeed. Well, sounds like you keep busy. Um, do you introduce yourself to people as a living legend, or do you just keep that to yourself?
I keep that to myself, but I
Okay.
thought I needed to say that.
Not many people can say they're a living legend. All right. You have served for several years as a plenary session representative. Tell us just about you. You already have a little bit, but tell us a little more about your engagement in UCEA's governance.
Okay, I'd be happy to, Scott. So it is a pleasure for me to be serving in the plenum role, and I've been doing that for 6 years so far, representing Virginia Tech since 2014 and earlier UNCG. In this capacity, I'm an official liaison between and among Virginia Tech and UCA's Executive Council and Executive Director. Besides attending the annual plenum meetings, I fulfill all duties associated with the governance role, such as reviewing materials and voting on programs under review. At 3 universities, I played a pivotal role in initiating UCA institutional membership, volunteering to oversee, with faculty colleagues, the entire application process. This intensive effort has resulted in all 3 universities obtaining full UCA institutional membership status. High quality work is being sustained in these locations, and we share a feeling of pride and unity. I recently chaired the UCEA William J. Davis Award Selection Committee and had an article recognized by EAQ. Active for almost 2 decades in UCEA, I have served as a mentor in the Barbara L. Jackson Scholars Network and William L. Boyd National Educational Politics Workshop. As a plenum rep, it's vital to stay connected with our jurisdictions. So I'm intentional about communicating regularly with my faculty colleagues and campus leaders. I share UCA's updates, news, and opportunities for participation, development, and leadership. At VT, we use UCA's Inspire Program Evaluation Suite as a resource for surveying our stakeholders and making improvements to ensure quality programming and delivery. Also in my plenum role, I handle my program's nominations for the various UCA opportunities. And I encourage my colleagues to attend UCA's conventions and benefit from the welcoming community and cutting edge programming. I am bringing 2 of my doctoral students to UCA in Houston, Scott, so I'm happy
Ah,
to be able to introduce you to them.
I would enjoy that.
At my university, we do need to bring strong advocacy for our continued membership during these times of dire budgetary cuts when campus leaders face hard decisions, including about whether to support institutional memberships. So I share my reports and benefits of UCA institutional membership and meet with our leaders. Taking another step in this regard, I wrote up the benefits of UCA institutional membership status specific to our program and added this to our program strategic plan. In it, we explained that this status is fundamental to our program's mission and values, reputation, and accreditation, as well as faculty productivity and student sponsorship. Our university leadership is turning a corner, I think, realizing that our UCA status is not only good but essential.
Hmm.
Our membership gives our program national visibility and credibility that was previously lacking outside the Commonwealth of Virginia. Oh, that might be a controversial point, Scott. I appreciate your question.
Yes, indeed. Well, you've already given much in contribution to UCEA. In what other ways have you engaged in UCEA?
Well, I think there are a few other things I haven't mentioned. So, for 6 years, I've been serving as an editorial board for UCA's journals, Educational Administration Quarterly, or EAQ, and the Journal of Research on Leadership Education, or JRLE. So, in recognition, I was awarded the 2015 EAQ Service Award for Outstanding Editorial Board Service. I cherish that award too. And I served on the 2017 J.D. Scribner Mentoring Award Committee and selection process. I've been participating as a faculty mentor in the William J. Boyd National Education Politics Workshop. I've been doing that every year. UCA sponsors that with AERA. And I enjoyed being a Jackson faculty mentor. To help create a welcoming environment to UCA's newcomers, I mentor doctoral students within its ambassadors program. In Denver, I had the opportunity to facilitate a session for the UCEA Graduate Student Council, and I enjoyed that. Another highlight for me in Denver was being on a panel with other J.D. Scribner Award recipients. And again in Houston, we'll be sharing our mentoring insights and benefits for the leadership professoriate and transitioning practitioners. Such work promotes a positive, healthy mentoring climate and lasting social connections. Thanks again for another good question, Scott.
Yes, absolutely. Now, outside of UCEA, could you discuss with us your scholarship, research projects, teaching, or service that can inform the work of UCEA, particularly the work of the executive committee?
So this is another really good question. I think I bring a great deal of research, editorial, and collaborative experience, which can inform the work of UCEA. Also, I'm deeply immersed in UCEA's robust as well as stellar research culture, and am very much attuned to its quality matters mindset with respect to educational leadership programming. I'm an active member of numerous editorial boards, including Educational Administration Quarterly and the Journal of Research on Leadership Education, which are UCEA's research journals. I was editor of the Mentoring and Tutoring Journal and associate editor of the International Journal of Leadership in Education, which are Routledge journals.
Mm-hmm.
Peer-reviewed articles of mine on leadership and curriculum have appeared in many journals. So a few are those I've been mentioning, like JRLE, but the Journal of School Leadership, Teachers College Record, the Educational Forum, Educational Psychology Review are a few. And as mentioned, articles and books of mine have won awards from ARAs, SIGs, and other places. Two of my articles with the Journal of Research and Leadership Education are timely for UCA's work. My 2017 article on ethical leadership preparation and my 2018 article on quality graduate programming could add to the conversations in which UCA is obviously deeply invested.
Mm-hmm.
Taking seriously its mission around quality, research-based standards, and ethical leadership preparation, UCA supports the 2015 Professional Standards for Educational Leaders Standards, or PSEL, codifying these as ethical ideals. A quality of mind or question, to which I'm very much concerned, has to do with contributing to this trend in a meaningful way, which I do think my JRLE article addresses.
Mm-hmm.
Last year at UCA Denver, I presented on ethical learning and leading in fractured times. And this study is based on the curriculum I designed and implemented that made ethics the centerpiece within graduate instruction. The study benefited from the frameworks and research of numerous UCA scholars. For this ethics study published in JRLE, I had in mind a curricular trend that UCA's executive leadership predicted a decade ago around how our programs would transform and come to emphasize issues of diversity, ethics, and equity. So the pedagogic innovation and study analysis is an example of how I situate my teaching and scholarship within the UCA research culture. Both the PSEL standards, effective educational leadership is needed for responding to the new context of public education that supports achievement. This new context stimulates thinking about diversity and access in entirely new ways. Institutional diversity is another theme that runs through publications of mine with UCA colleagues. So I just want to emphasize this term, institutional diversity.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, we have a piece in the UCA review on the organizational capacities of building minority serving institutions in new ways by design, for example. In Houston, I'm presenting on such topics as unsettling Indigenous colonization to advance political equality. And I'm looking at tribal justice in research and art. This kind of work that I undertook for my last Fulbright speaks to our common cause of revolutionizing the future. Thanks again for your good questions, Scott.
Oh, you're very welcome. And I really only have one more question for you, and it's an important one. It's the question of why. Really, just share the reasons why you have chosen to run for the UCEA Executive Committee, and your vision for the future of UCEA.
Well, I agree with you, Scott. This is an important question. So I chose to run for the UCA Executive Council, which we fondly call the EC, after being nominated because of my strong interest in serving in this capacity and experience of being on 2 national level executive boards in the profession. This is my last year as officer with the Society of Professors in Education Board, so the timing is perfect. I enjoy seeing UCA excelling at what it does well, setting trends in the field and leading the way as a mover and shaker. I like being part of the action. On the EC, I would be situated in such a way as to contribute that much more to our professional organization. I would be bringing years of governance related experience. For example, when serving on the executive governance of another national organization, I eventually became its president and had the opportunity to introduce new initiatives and brainstorm with invested colleagues. So I enjoy this kind of work and being on the side of change. I'm current in my knowledge about the challenges and directions that concern UCA, which seems important for hitting the ground running. I'd enjoy doing site visits too with colleagues and seeing other university programs up close. I continue to find myself encouraging interested administrators and faculty around the nation to consider applying for UCA institutional membership. In fact, I just had that opportunity today with a colleague of mine who I'll be seeing at UCA Houston. With the exciting trends and challenges that UCA initiates and the rapid rate at which its membership is diversifying, this association walks its talk. I
Hmm.
respect that. So you asked about vision too, and I
Mhm.
want to speak to that now. More and more diverse institutions and populations are joining UCA and becoming a vital part of the UCA community of learning oriented leaders. At this time in our nation's politically toxic climate, UCA institutional membership could prove not only a boost for quality programs, but also a safe haven where there is none otherwise for those who feel their programs are under threat. Interest by university folk to become UCA member institutions can be cultivated. There are deans, department chairs, and faculty members who have not applied for UCA membership status, but who hope to become an
Mhm.
institutional member one day. I have spoken with some of these folks. I'm thinking there could be a mechanism in place for providing support at the outset and in the early phase, specific to people's context, needs, and questions around the application process and other issues, such as faculty involvement and engagement, leadership buy in, and benefits to the program and stakeholders. I've been made aware that the cost of institutional membership presents a daunting challenge to some institutions. So I'd like to have the opportunity to really spell out the advantages to potential members. Another point is that I envision UCA harnessing even more of the institutional interests of its members and participants. UCA already has global ties with some universities and countries, such as China, and a UCA institutional membership with a Hong Kong university to leverage the international interests of potential UCA members in this regard could prove fruitful and timely. While the US based national level of research and practice would remain UCA's priority, I imagine, a development of its collaborations with different countries could benefit its impact. And I'd like to help with that. Clearly, UCA's program of global relevance and international leadership is building momentum from one convention to the next, as is apparent in our continuing lineup of sessions. On a final note, I'd just like to say that I'd welcome contributing to UCA's work as a member of the EC and very much hope to have that opportunity. Thanks for taking the time to interview me, Scott, and see you in Houston.
Well, thank you so much for your time and for your thoughtful responses, Dr. Mullen. Um, Well, that concludes this interview. This interview will be archived on the UCEA YouTube channel. Listeners can access or share the interview at any time. We encourage listeners to post comments and questions on this interview in the comments on the UCEA YouTube channel. Thank you very much, and goodbye.